in disappointment over the years. So I understand how he feels. We didn't hate the Bulls. They were trying to catch us. We were the winners. But we hate the Boston Celtics. No question about that.
I actually used to hate Larry Bird. Hated him. Because
why?
I was sort of like, jealous of him because he was a regular guy that did everything. He shouted in your face. He had to fade away. One time, I was watching a game. They was playing somebody, and I was betting this guy, and he was falling out of.
I didn't like Larry. In fact, I was so stupid that I didn't even really think he was very good. I just hated Larry Bird growing up. And then I stepped out on the floor with him the very first game. Now I see Larry's 6'9". He's big as a doorway. I thought he was like 6'6". I didn't know.
The one I really hated to guard was Larry Bird. He was not a nice guy. Matter of fact, there was one game in Cleveland where he was having a pretty rough first half. And
we played against each other like 12, 13 years. We never shook hands, never spoke. Really? Never. I mean, as the great players back then, you didn't want another great player to get that close to you.
Yeah.
So none of us liked each other, never spoke. I didn't speak to him for 13 years straight.
I love Larry even more.
Larry terrified coaches at the end that you could have everything covered, but he could find a way to get open. So coaches were always praying, don't let him catch it, because he'll beat you.
We don't.
Boston moment, that was a heartbreaking moment. Probably what was heartbreaking about that moment is, and Kevin, you'll remember this, but before that moment, before I threw the ball away, I had made the game-winning shot.
He wasn't that great of an athlete. He had the heart of a lion. And so playing against him was kind of my real first taste of, man, I want to do that, right? I want to compete against that.
People want to talk about who's the greatest and the GOATs of all time. Y'all have never played against Larry Bird. Larry Bird would give you nightmares now if you had to sit back and think about it. Kevin McHale would smell like garlic on purpose. And rub his underarms. Petrovic. You remember?
Make a statement, and I was just the prime candidate to be.
Yeah.
Before the game, he told me, he was like, he just shook his head at me. He said, "Man, it'd be a night for you."
So what did he put up?
I think he gave me 46.
What'd you do?
But I had to foul.
Picture the hardwood in the 1980s. The second you step onto it, you can feel this raw, competitive fire. And it's all aimed at one unstoppable guy, Larry Bird. Lakers legends, Pistons legends, they all carried real resentment toward this Celtic sharpshooter, a guy who'd call his shot before he even took it and then bury it anyway. His clutch performances turned tough, proud rivals into frustrated storytellers for decades to come.
He was lucky, but then when I had a friend, his name was Mitch Rouse. I was Magic, and Mitch was Bird. And Mitch could do the same thing. Bird. Mitch had the long hair, and he did everything.
Our rotations, double teaming Kevin McHale, always had to rotate to the corner, and Larry Bird was the one shooting it. So he shot one, and I'm trying to block this shot, and he would just tell me, "Scott, you're a little too late."
All the Laker greats, I would always sit down and just ask them questions about certain games that I studied growing up. What actually happened there? What did you feel there? Why? Bird tough to defend. Why? Because he looks slow as shit to me. So I'm missing something. So tell me what I'm missing.
Have you ever wondered why some players still bring up a rival from 40 years ago like it happened yesterday? That's Bird for you. Most of the guys who faced him still remember the arrogance, and it stung for decades. Names like Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas basically ran on the fuel of hating Bird's relentless excellence and his constant mental games. That dislike came from real physical battles and real psychological warfare, and somehow it pushed everyone involved to become even greater.
I thought most of what he did was luck, but as I got older and kept watching, I just knew that it was skill. And for him to even have his name mentioned in this category with Magic and Michael Jordan just shows how great of a.
Now let's jump right into the chaos. James Worthy still carries a very specific kind of bitterness toward Larry Bird, and honestly, it makes today's rivalries look like a playground argument. In interview after interview, Worthy has made it clear Bird was an absolute nightmare to deal with. Picture this. He'd stroll into the three-point contest locker room, casually announce everyone else was playing for second place. That's not just competition anymore. That's personal humiliation, and it stuck with players for decades. Mix that kind of calculated arrogance with skills nobody could match, and you get resentment that goes way deeper than basketball.
And then you got that arrogant, cocky Larry Bird trash talking all the time.
And was he really arrogant? Was he really, really arrogant?
Well, yeah, he could back it up. So when you're arrogant and you can back it up, you're not arrogant, you're just good.
And Larry Bird pushed me up and they threw that ball over. And I got to tell you, Dan, he doesn't miss. He doesn't miss. And I've never told anybody this, but I think I peed on myself a little bit.
Step into the Lakers locker room for a second, and you'll hear Magic Johnson openly admit something wild. The hatred for Bird and anything green ran deep enough to fuel entire seasons of obsession. Magic has said that just watching Bird walk into an arena, that confident strut, that floppy blonde hair, was enough to trigger instant dislike. Every possession against him felt like a personal war, especially after those brutal finals battles where Bird always found a way to make the Lakers look ordinary. So what did Showtime do about it? They spent countless hours plotting how to shut him down, only to watch him drop 40 points while trash-talking the entire game. Magic later admitted this rivalry burned hotter than almost anything else in his career. This wasn't a mild annoyance, it was a full-blown emotional commitment, and it still comes up whenever the old Lakers get together to relive the glory days.
Weapons, the cons.
Exactly. So he had the black one, I had the purple and gold one.
Right.
So we shot about half the commercial, a little bit more, and it's lunchtime. So I'm thinking I'm going to my trailer, because we really haven't broken bread before like this. So as I'm taking about 3 steps toward the trailer, he said, "Magic, man, I'd like you to have lunch with me up at the house. My mom has prepared lunch." He threw the mom, you know, mom. You know I can't say no.
You can't say no.
He just threw the mom in there. Okay. So I go to the house, you know, and he's down there, I'm down here. She's bringing out all the dishes, and she brought that last one and set it down, and she hit him.
Did you want to be friends with him from the beginning?
From the beginning, I wanted to be friends, but Larry didn't want none of that. You know, and so, you know, and so I said, okay, if that's how it's gonna be, then we have to be like that. Then, you know? So I started disliking him too. Then, you know, so, but
now let's head to Detroit, because Isaiah Thomas has a story of his own. After one particularly painful playoff loss, the frustration finally boiled over. Thomas and his teammates were so sick of losing to Bird again that their post-game comments sparked a full-blown controversy. They felt the media had inflated Bird's legend beyond what he actually deserved. Those playoff wars were brutal enough that Thomas and Dennis Rodman said things in the heat of the moment that revealed just how deep Bird had gotten under their skin. And it wasn't only mental. The physical battles left bruises to match. Thomas has since gone back and clarified those comments in later interviews, but that underlying dislike, built over years of fighting him, remains a defining chapter of the Bad Boys story.
But that's not as painful, that moment?
That was a moment on the journey. I'm in the finals, and I got the guy down on the ground, and I'm getting ready to just tear his heart out.
So what about the physical side of all this? Bill Laimbeer and the rest of the Pistons played a style that clashed violently with Bird's smooth game, and it created a mutual disdain that never really faded. Laimbeer built a reputation for dirty play that Bird openly hated. There were ejections, teammates throwing punches, and decades of not really. He just rose above it and made them look desperate in the process. That feud got so legendary that both sides still trade sarcastic jabs to this day, proving some basketball hatreds simply refuse to cool off, championship rings or not.
Slim and none also seem to be the Celtics' chances in Game 5 of a playoff against the Pistons in 1987.
And the 24-second clock goes down, and Bird and Laimbeer go at it.
Let's zoom out to the Lakers side of things again. Byron Scott and other teammates felt that same pure competitive loathing, bordering on obsession, every time the Celtics came to town. Scott has talked about growing up hating everything about Boston, and he carried that straight into his pro career, where it seemed like Bird took real pleasure in dismantling Showtime's flashy style with pure fundamentals. Picture him calling his own shot, then draining it while staring right at the defender. That's a whole different kind of psychological warfare, and it left opponents' regular season matchups because they knew his confidence wasn't empty talk. It was backed by an uncanny ability to hit shots from literally anywhere on the floor. Swagger plus results? That combination left a trail of frustrated stars shaking their heads.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was playing some pretty good defense on him. I was keeping him from, that's the one guy I was quicker than, so I could stay with him. But I think in the first half, he was like 1 for 9 or something.
But here's where the story takes a turn. A lot of these same legends eventually moved from pure hatred toward a grudging respect that still carries could finally appreciate the journey they'd shared. Their Broadway production and joint public appearances show that the hatred actually served a purpose. It pushed both of them higher, even if that competitive edge never fully disappeared, even in retirement. Isn't it wild how true greatness often needs a worthy enemy to fully reveal itself?
Lunch break time. I was going to my trailer. He said, no, my mother has prepared lunch for us up at the house.
We went up to the house and we sat down there and we talked, and my mom, my brothers thought the world of him.
His mother was so nice, making sure I had enough to eat. I just saw my mother. It was crazy.
He charmed her. You can see it, but that's magic. He makes everybody feel.
Let's bring Charles Barkley into it, because he offers a different flavor entirely. Praise mixed with the kind of honest critique only a fellow competitor can give. Barkley has broken down Bird's game in detail over the years, giving him full credit for the shooting touch and basketball IQ, while still insisting his own game had the edge in rebounding and physicality. And of course, Barkley wouldn't be Barkley without adding his signature humor. He never hands out pure praise without a little edge attached. Fans love this because it's an unfiltered opinion from someone who was actually out there sharing the court with Bird during that golden era.
I was blessed to play in a generation because the two most important figures in NBA history are Magic Johnson and Larry Bird.
Right.
If it wasn't for those two guys, and Reese has something to do with that.
Yes.
Reese has something to do with that.
He says, you guys are being disrespectful to me. And I says, what are you talking about? He says, you guys are putting a white guy on me. That's disrespectful.
Wait, who's the white guy you put on him?
I can't remember who it was. I just started laughing.
Here comes in and says, which one of you is going to come in second place? So, like, which one of you going to come in second place?
So first words through the door.
Which one of you?
Then there's Julius Erving, and his tone couldn't be more different from the earlier stories of pure dislike. It's measured and honestly admiring. Dr. J has shared his own memories of the physical confrontations and competitive fire that defined their matchups, but he ultimately lands in a place of deep respect for how Bird lifted his teammates and delivered when it mattered most. Their battles in the 1980s Eastern Conference forged real bonds over time. And here's what makes Erving's take extra meaningful. He was already a legend before Bird ever arrived, and he still found room to celebrate what the newcomer brought to the game.
You're not supposed to get along. You know, Magic, he goes to the Lakers, and then you end up meeting the Lakers in the finals. And in that series, you have one of the most famous shots of all time where you're behind the basket. Does it ever amaze you when you see it now that, wow, I did that? I'm hard to be amazed. I feel proud of it.
Bird used to tell me, look here, man. I'm going to go shoot this motherfucking jumper in your face right there in that corner. And it's going to be your Christmas present. I'm going to wrap it up and bust your head open. All that shit. He was the coldest dude I ever seen with that shit.
Now let's hear from a younger generation. Gary Payton's take on Bird leans heavily into admiration, especially for the mental side of his game. Peyton has called Bird the coldest trash talker he's ever gone up against, describing moments where Bird would announce exactly where his next jumper was headed, and then just deliver it with perfect form while the defender stood there, still processing what he'd just heard. That combo of verbal dominance and actual results left a lasting mark on a player known for his own sharp tongue and defensive intensity. And it's a good reminder, Bird's reputation for getting into people's heads wasn't built on empty words. It was earned through results, night after night.
And first play of the game, he says, "I don't know where they got you guarding me, Holmes." And he shoots a 3. I was pissed. I said, I wasn't mad he hit the 3, but there's some bitch that's called me Holmes.
Let's talk about Dominique Wilkins next. Another high-flying star who felt Bird's unique brand of pressure firsthand during some unforgettable playoff battles. Wilkins remembers the early trash talk that set the tone for their rivalry, including a casual dismissal that left him determined to prove himself while still acknowledging the respect that grew between them over time. Athletic explosiveness versus crafty efficiency, that matchup created some classic moments fans still argue about today, and Wilkins consistently lands on the side of giving credit where it's due. From the Pistons side, John Salley offers a lighter but still revealing angle on how Bird managed to frustrate an entire roster of physical enforcers. Salley has plenty of funny stories about trying to contain a guy who seemed to see every defensive scheme coming, punishing the smallest lapse with a perfectly timed shot or pass. The Bad Boys built their whole identity around toughness and intimidation. So what happened when they ran into Bird's calm demeanor and deadly accuracy? They had to keep adjusting, and it tested every bit of their patience. These stories blend the seriousness of the rivalry with the sheer absurdity of trying to stop someone who treated every possession like a chess match.
Talk, and he would say, "Sal, you better ask for a double team, bro." And there's, I was like, when are you going to keep letting when are you going to let these people know you're a black guy from Indiana?
Then you've got players from later generations, like Reggie Miller, who talk about Bird as both a mentor figure and a personal measuring stick for excellence. Miller often brings up early encounters with Bird that taught him real lessons about mental toughness and preparation, lessons that became the foundation for his own successful career. There's even a bit of hometown flavor here, given their shared Indiana roots, which makes Miller's admiration feel genuine rather than obligatory. It just shows how Bird's impact reached players long after his own playing days ended.
Play in any era, generation, and dominate. Same with Magic. Those guys, Michael, it doesn't matter. You could plug them in the 60s and you could plug them in today's game. And
tiebreaker, no question. You at the three-point competition, walking in the locker room. Who's playing? Did you really say that? Who's playing for second?
Yeah, I did. I feel so bad because...
Zooming out a bit, Bird's presence basically forced an entire generation of stars to raise their game, or risk looking inadequate on national television. So many Hall of Famers keep telling the same kind of story. A player who refused to back down from anything, while simultaneously making everyone question their own abilities. Take a closer look at his 3 MVP seasons, and you'll understand why so many opponents felt the need to vent publicly after tough losses. Bird put up elite numbers while also turning role players into real contributors, and that left rival teams searching for answers they never quite found during the Celtics' peak years. Statistical dominance plus clutch performances equals a sense of inevitability that wore down even the most confident competitors over a long season. Ordinary games turned into high-stakes psychological battles, and those battles left real emotional scars on the losing side.
Came into the league, Larry Bird was at his peak, and he was incredible at what he did, and he was humble. And he came to work every single day, and I admired that. And so I think he was my.
Now let's talk championships, because the titles and finals appearances cemented Bird's legacy, while also fueling resentment from everyone who came up short against him. Magic and the Lakers experienced both the highs of winning and the lows of losing in those classic series, and that complicated mix of emotions still surfaces in interviews decades later. The Pistons eventually broke through after years of frustration, but those earlier losses shaped how they remembered every battle. Wins and losses kept that competitive
publicity because he was white.
Dennis said you wouldn't be talking so much about him if he was a black guy like the rest of us. You making a big thing because he's white. And then Isaiah comes in from the shower and they go, Isaiah, one of your teammates says, and Isaiah's like, yeah, I guess so. Like, think about it. Larry Bird was my favorite player. The reason the Celtics were my favorite team growing up, and I'm not a Knicks fan, is because they win. They were the first team to hire a black coach in the 50s. I always say, they said, who's the greatest player to ever play to you? And I said, Magic, Larry, Irving, Bird.
Let's also touch on something a little heavier, the racial and cultural undertones that occasionally surface during the height of these rivalries. That gives some added context to a few of the stronger public statements from that era. Thomas and Rodman's comments after the 1987 series reflected deeper frustrations about perception and how the media told the story, going well beyond basketball disagreements. Bird's response and the joint appearances that followed helped ease the immediate tension, but the underlying competitive fire never really went away. It's a layer that makes this whole story richer and more reflective of the social dynamics of that era. What about the people closest to him, his own teammates and coaches? Their perspective shows how Bird's intensity affected everyone around him, not just his opponents. He demanded excellence, and mediocrity simply wasn't tolerated, which led to championship success, but also some internal friction along the way. Opponents saw that same drive turned outward, and they responded with a mix of respect and resentment. Put it all together, and you get a full portrait of a player who left absolutely no one indifferent during his time in the league.
And he looked over at Kelly. He looked around and said, Tripucka's going to guard me? You guys are putting Tripucka on me? Nobody said anything, and he just said, all right, guys, whatever we're running, forget it. 4 down. And walked Kelly right into the post. He had a triple-double in the first half. He just started running Kelly into the post, calling his own play. And within 4 possessions, he'd had, 2 baskets, an and one, and an assist, and had to mix it up. Kelly was no longer on him.
He got a triple-double in the first.
So, what does all of this add up to? Honestly, the hatred expressed by so many legends ends up being the highest compliment you can pay in a competitive sport. Bird forced the best players of his generation to face their own limitations and push past them just to keep up, even with all the playful embellishment mixed in. It's an ongoing conversation among legends, and it gives us endless material for understanding why one player generated such strong emotions across an entire era. Now, let's back it up with the numbers, because the stats give a factual backbone to all this emotion. Bird's career averages and peak seasons put him among the elite scorers, rebounders, and playmakers of his time all at once, leaving opponents with very few weaknesses to actually exploit. Contributing across every category while shooting at an elite percentage created a complete package that frustrated defensive schemes built for more specialized players. That's a big reason the hatred so often came mixed with a reluctant acknowledgement of just how skilled he was. Here's something worth thinking about.
He said, that's exactly what he said. He said, hey man, you can't put no white dude on me. Hey, that is straight disrespect, right? He said, don't put no white. So check this out. So the next year we come back, I said, I got somebody for you, right? Yeah. He said, who you got? I said, Rodman. He said, okay, he's a little better. He said, but don't ever put no white dude on me because that is disrespectful.
Bird and Magic together helped revive the league's popularity at a crucial moment, and that gave their personal rivalry a national stage to play out on. Every trash talk exchange, every hard foul, got amplified into a major storyline as the sport's popularity grew. So opponents weren't just competing against a great player anymore, they were competing against the growing legend of that player, one the media and fans eagerly embraced. That extra scrutiny only added more fuel to fires that were already burning bright. Let's circle back to the personal relationships that formed after these players retired. because that offers a really satisfying resolution to all that earlier dislike. The friendships that grew between former rivals show just how powerful shared excellence can be at overcoming old animosities. Magic and Bird's ongoing bond stands out as the best example, but similar friendships show up throughout stories from that era. It's a hopeful counterpoint to all that intense hatred from their playing days, and a good reminder that top-level competition often creates lifelong connections.
But I got to witness his shit talking up close. So I went to my first pre-draft camp as a kid, and I was walking with our GM, Billy Knight. Scoring Billy Knight, right? Yep. Billy Knight could put that ball in the hole. He was a great player. And we're walking, and Larry's walking, and Billy's like, hey, you want to meet Larry Bird?
Pulling all of these accounts together paints a rich picture of human emotion wrapped around one incredible career. That first wave of hatred from Worthy, Magic, Thomas, Rodman, and others came from very real frustration at facing someone who seemed to operate on a completely different level of preparation and confidence. The praise that followed from Barkley, Irving, Peyton, Wilkins, and plenty more reflects the simple truth that a force of nature like Bird ultimately made everyone around him better. That complete journey from resentment to respect is really the heart of why Larry Bird remains such a compelling figure in basketball history. Someone who can still stir up strong feelings long after the final buzzer of his career. So here's the punchline in all of this.
6'10", with
playing
a skill
small
set.
forward.
What's
with
his
a
skill? Talk to us about his skill set.
His skill
though.
set, first of all, he had a basketball IQ off the chart. His skill set, he had very few weaknesses, and he can beat you in be the passing, scoring, rebounding. He just knew how to play. Very smart player. And it's not a lot of guys that have that type of basketball IQ along with skill that beat you like that. And so when I played against him, I had to bring my A game every night.
Larry Bird's entire legend basically comes down to a guy who made grown professionals despise him, precisely because he kept forcing them to become better versions of themselves. The same voices who once cursed his name in the locker room later found themselves laughing about how thoroughly proved something interesting. The sharpest form of respect in basketball often shows up disguised as lifelong irritation, and nobody wore that disguise better than Bird. Watching today's game search for that same kind of intensity just shows how...
I told you he was crazy. He was like,
I never heard that story. I heard a lot of Larry Bird shit talking.
So
That is
funny.
hilarious.
So that was to this day, I don't know if I've ever heard somebody hit the button
like that.
so perfect. They haven't played basketball in 20 years. They're retired. Like, they've been retired for years, bro.
Right.
And he's still talking shit about where he used to cook them. The nerve of Larry Bird, bro. Like,
boy, that's a good one.
Amazing, bro.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Amazing.
Every new generation of rivalries produce the richest stories, long after the last championship parade has ended. And when you settle into the quiet truth of it all, Larry Bird never needed to soften his edge or apologize for any of the chaos he caused, because the results always spoke louder than any post-game rant ever could. Championship banners, MVP trophies, and an endless line of opponents forced to admit defeat. That's a legacy no amount of early bitterness could ever diminish. And here's the beautifully ironic part. The very players who hated him the most became the most reliable keepers of his myth. So that's where we'll leave the story, with a knowing grin. Because the hick from French Lick made an entire generation of legends look ordinary, and honestly, they still can't stop talking about it.